Studio17.
Bonjour à tous, bienvenue au Ludiverse. Je suis Thibaut et aujourd'hui j'ai la chance d'être rejoint par un game designer de légende. J'ai nommé Alessio Cavatore. Vous le connaissez sans doute pour des jeux comme Bolt Action, Conquest, Dragonbound, King of War et bien sûr Warhammer, Lord of the Rings. Buongiorno, Alessio.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. How's Paris treating you so far? Enjoying the Ludiverse?
Yes, it's been great. Yes, coming from England, the weather is nice, the food is nice.
Better, you'd say?
Of course.
The weather or the food?
Both.
As an Italian, that means something, I imagine. To start things with a bit of a generic question, I wanted to know how did you discover what we call nowadays the hobby? How did you fall in love with it? What can you tell us about that?
Well, I discovered toy soldiers, which have become a profession, when I was a young lad. I was probably 8-10 years old, something like that, or even younger probably. And I started to play with plastic toy soldiers on the beach, on the seaside, and we built castles, forts, and put the soldiers.
That's the best.
So you throw stones at them, and the explosions of the sand, and the soldiers fall over, and so that was the start. But then I found some books. My grandfather gave me a book, and basically they're called battle games books.
Battle games.
And imagine a very colorful hardback which has a lot of information about something. Like one was about medieval knights, one was about World War II, but this was a series, and so you had a lot of beautiful illustration, great some information. So you flick through this, get into the say, for example, the medieval knights. You talks about the armor, all the pieces of the armor, what they're called, and then you get the castle. It's like, oh, this is the castle, this is the town, this is all the terms and everything. So you learn a lot through that, and jousting and heraldry. And then the second half of the book is 4 games. So basically, you open a spread, and a double-page spread is a map, and the next page is the rules.
Nice.
And in the middle, there's a bit that you can photocopy or cut out, and you can cut it. There's playing pieces. Okay? So you play these games, these small war games, on this book. And so I started there.
Was it in Italian?
Yes, it was translated in Italian, but
Okay.
it's a British Andrew McNeill, I think is called the author. But there was an Italian edition, and then the next step was actually going. So my bedroom as a child has squares like a parquet made of wood, wooden squares. So I was like, wait,
could do a battlefield.
I take my toy soldiers, the plastic ones, put them on top of that, and do some rules like this. Oh, this doesn't quite work because I'll change the rules a bit. And I started to change the rules, and I started to play games on the floor there, which normally were won not by me, but by the cat. The house cat tended to kill vast armies. But that's the start for the wargaming toy soldier kind of side. I always had that love. And when I was at university, well, no, actually high school. Before university, I discovered this thing called D&D.
Yeah,
and
which I think we heard about.
You heard about a bit. Yeah. I started with the red box, the basic. So I started playing with friends on the basic, and then we bought the expert and the companion and the master and the immortal. So all 5 boxes, and we played it all for years and years and years. We played all the Dragonlance campaign, 14 modules, because we moved to AD&D after a while.
Okay.
AD&D. And then, all of Dragonlance. We had all the expansion book and 14 modules, which I GM'd, and it took many years.
I imagine.
But we played all 14, and I still am so close with a lot of the people that I played with, and we still play D&D. We still play D&D.
With the same group of friends?
Not everybody's the same, but there's 2 of us in there which are still part of the original group. Yes,
okay.
And we play with now. I mean, they're in Italy, but I still, from England. I connect every week. We play on Beyond, and we just play there together. It's they stay with us.
That's good to know. And when did you actually move from Italy to England? Was it for your work at Games Workshop?
Yes, exactly that. I won I was playing role-play games, and then I broke my leg I was doing kendo as a sport.
Okay.
I broke my leg, not doing kendo, I broke my leg in a different way. And because I couldn't do kendo anymore, I ended up in going more role playing, ended up in a club for playing D&D. And I saw these people playing this strange game with huge amount of miniatures. And I was like, oh, what's that? It's like, it's called Warhammer Fantasy Battle. It's like,
I want to know everything about
exactly. So I got into it a lot instead of studying for my university exams. And I then won the Italian tournament Warhammer tournament in 95, I think, something like that.
So I'm talking to an actual champion.
Oh, Italian champion, yes.
Italian champion.
There were at least 10 people playing at the time.
That's still something, man. I never won a tournament.
A bit more than 10, but it was very competitive.
Yeah.
We took it very seriously.
Yeah, I imagine.
But so I won the tournament there, which meant that the next year, when I was defending the title, I met Jean-Paul Brisigotti, who was founding Games Workshop Italy to translate the Warhammer into Italian, and we spoke in English. He offered me a job, and I went to England to translate, to localize the 4th edition, I think, 5th, something like that, very early Warhammer, and then a year later I got into a position of a junior games developer, and that's how we started.
And were your education linked to like either game design or translation, or did just that happen?
It happened. I did at school, at high school. I was doing what is called a liceo classico in Italy, which was basically you do classical subject, a lot of Italian literature, but also Latin, Greek, philosophy, history, all of that. And then after that, at university, I went for biology, which is completely unrelated, and because I prefer scientific subjects even, because you do some scientific subjects even in that. And so I did biology, and basically nothing to do with being a game designer. That came from, I've learned English, being on the translation side. I learned English because one of my favorite, D&D was not in Italian.
Yeah, okay.
So I had to learn it in English, so as AD&D. So a lot of that I had to learn the modules, those 14 modules, those rule books were all in English. So I learned them all reading that. Then Tolkien, after a while I went like, I love Lord of the Rings, but I want to read it in English the way it was written. Yeah. So I learned a lot of that, and my English came from that. And the first few years it was bizarre because I spoke in a medieval style English.
Which should add a bit of flair to your character, I guess.
Yeah, also some misunderstandings. Like I remember calling somebody saying, "Oh, you're a bit queer," meaning you're a bit strange, because the hobbits would say the queer people from outside the Shire.
Different meaning.
And he was like, what did you call me? It's like, strange, queer? Like, let me explain. That word has a different meaning in modern English. But it was that. I was speaking a bit oldie English.
Which is fascinating.
Which was good for translating Warhammer.
Yeah,
right?
I imagine.
So for that was, so I learned from fantasy and used it as a recipe. So it was gaming, literature, language to do with gaming. So that's how it came about.
Yeah, and I guess all the little battles that you actually played in your bedroom helped when it comes to game design.
Yes, I mean I started with those, and then I'm obviously, as I grew older, I started to play a lot of like Avalon Hill board games or the Hex Encounters, quite a lot of those, and then Warhammer, and yes, definitely I like that soldiers thing. And funnily enough, later on in life, we'll talk about it, but I went back to historical from the fantasy and science fiction back to history. So.
Yeah, we'll talk about bolt action for sure. But before that, I wanted to know, like, because you come from Italy and then you moved to the UK, and then you went from translator to game designer. I mean, in your head, do you design when you're in game designing mode? Is it in Italian or do you design in English nowadays?
Well, because I lived now in England for longer than I lived in Italy, and I have now a double citizenship, so I am effectively a bit of both. And I think after a couple of years that you live in a country, and particularly because I intentionally avoided the thing that a lot of people that move abroad tend to do, which is sticking with people of your own culture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I intentionally avoided that.
Okay,
I just went, I need to immerse myself in this other culture. And my English needs to develop because I need to write in English. So if I keep speaking Italian with Italians here in England, then I could feel that. So intentionally I went like, no, I need English friends. I need people that speak that as a first language. And so it worked. And after a couple of years, something not long actually, you start to think in that language. You start to dream in that language.
I was thinking about that. Yeah,
you wake up and go, wait, did I just dream in English? So it became quite a second nature. And sometimes when I go back to Italy now, I'm fishing for words, and it's like, how do you say that in Italian? And they go, well, come on, stop it. Like, no, really, I forgot.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, obviously, like the way you think. I mean, in terms of language, it does play. It does have an impact on how you I guess you design, you think, you dream, as you mentioned. Definitely. I guess language plays a big part in how you write rules for a game as well.
Yes. And actually, the interesting thing is, as a translator. What I learned is that as a translator, you go through a process in your head which is not like reading. Yeah. Sometimes you write a rule and then read the rule and you know what you mean. You know, of course I know what I mean. I've read the rule. But then if you read it without, I know what you mean, I know what I mean, then you understand, actually it could have been written better. And if you translate it into a different language, that process helps you a lot understanding it, because you have to render the same concept in a different structure.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, yeah, because there is always this talk about how you write your rules. Should it be like natural English, or should it be like this own kind of vocabulary, like you invent words specifically or for the keywords for the game? Where do you stand on that? Would you rather always write in a natural sort of English, or do you like your keywords? How does that play with your multicultural background?
Well, I don't know if it's not from the multicultural side. This is from having worked a lot with people like Rick Priestley that shaped, Jerry Johnson, people that influenced what I learned from
your vision.
There's obviously very different ways of writing rules, and there's more legalistic ways of writing rules.
Yeah.
Maybe even putting numbers in there, 1.3.2, and using a lot of keywords and trying to keep the language dry, simple, and very tight, which I think sometimes can work if it's done really well. Sometimes it fails spectacularly because it's not done really well. You see attempted but nothing. But from Rick Priestley, I think particularly, the way he writes rules, which is very different from this. He writes it very narratively. He is talking to you like he's talking to a friend. He's telling you, giving you examples, and being very chatty, very friendly, very witty. He's got the most incredible English dry wit. It is really. I love reading his stuff. And when you read his stuff, I mean, Black Powder is a good example. It's a rules set about we can use it for Napoleonics, but it's joy to read it. And is it as tight as a dry, simple, minimalistic system? Probably not. And so maybe it's more suited for some type of gaming, some type of gamers. But I started my career thinking more in terms I wanted to be cut dry, not evocative, the more kind of maybe tournament style attitude. But recently, the more I relax, I guess, as an old age, and I lost the eye of the tiger, and I like writing in a more chatty tone, and that's, I think, it's more enjoyable to read, but perhaps occasionally may lead into people
interpreting,
often intentionally misinterpreting things.
I know what you mean.
It's like they're gonna go, I think you meant this. I was like, well, obviously not. But
I know what you mean. You mentioned Rick. I wanted to talk about you guys' relationship, because obviously, for those who don't know by this point, but what are you doing with your life? I don't know. Co-creator of many things, including Warhammer and Warhammer 40K. But was it some kind of mentor to you? I see a lot of when I read your rules, like a sort of a continuity. So, but maybe you can talk about how that relationship changed, I guess, over the years, because you've been working with Rick like for, I don't know, like many years. I'm not sure even how many, but like you guys have a decades-long collaboration, I'd say.
30 years.
30 years, so like that's 3 decades.
Yes, quite long. Yes, Rick, Jervis, Duomas, Andy Chambers. There's a lot of people that I have learned a lot from through the years. But yes, I think I always say Rick and Jervis, particularly, are the two people. We became really close friends, and we still play games
together.
We still play very ancient games. If you come on my Facebook page, you'll see us playing the oldest games, just because we really like to go back there. And we called it the Codgers Club. We're the old Codgers. But yeah, the relationship with Rick, most above all, is definitely kind of a sensei to student in a martial art kind of approach, where basically
this is how I pictured it in my mind. But
it is literally. I always went, I wish I could write as well as you do, and I try my best. And I mean, and on the other hand, I have some strengths that are, they're very complementary with Rick's, because he's more on the narrative side of things. I'm more on the number crunching, balance type side of things. So together as a team, I thought we worked well, and we worked on many projects. And I have to say, I think, and I know because he told me that he thinks too as well. So we worked in several projects, many projects together for the years, and and it became a friendship. Also, I think, is not just about game writing, but it's also the way he carries himself as a person, which I find, is like, that's a gentleman to me. He's teaching me to be a gentleman as well as a game designer. So, and Jervis too. I mean, those people are, very, so very influential in my life. Yes, I consider him a sensei. Maybe Jervis could be a senpai, senior colleague. But it's been precious in my career, definitely.
Yeah, I imagine. And so that brings me to Warhammer, obviously. I don't want to talk that much because I could do the whole interview about Warhammer, but I wanted to know maybe about Mordheim, because I think that's one of the game where you're the most known for. I'm not sure if you perceive it like that. And I'm sure you are, on the contrary, aware that it has like a cult following. It's still played to this day and still loved. So I wanted to know, like, how does that make you feel? And do you really think is that much of a highlight for your career at Games Workshop, or would you rather choose like another game?
Well, yeah, I think Tuomas Pirinen is Mordheim.
Okay.
He incarnates Mordheim, he designed Mordheim. So I think this question really is better reserved for Tuomas.
Yeah.
For myself, is it the game where I most remember? I think probably is Lord of the Rings, the strategy battle game. The one that tends to be more associated with me, because for many years I carried the ring. My job title was Ring Bearer.
That's nice. Yeah.
It was literally on my contract. So, the game was created again by Rick, the first edition, but when he was creating it, I was there from day one. We worked together on it, but officially, definitely, the lead writer was Rick. But
he championed it at Games Workshop, I think. Yeah.
After we did together, and he designed the first edition, the Fellowship of the Ring, then he just gave it to me. I was like, right, it's yours now. Go with it. And because Rick was like higher up in the echelon there of Games Workshop, so I was still game designer. So it was like, yep, it's yours. Go. Here's the ring of power. And he actually did like a Galadriel. He managed to not accept the ring and gave it to me. And so I developed it for many years, created the supplements, basically went from a single little thing to a system with supplements, with expansions, with different books, different editions of it. So it became mine, and my name is strongly associated with it, I think. So in terms of legacy, probably that's the one.
The biggest title, I was thinking about like Warhammer like as a brand, and I put Lord of the Rings on the side, but of course, you're very much associated with Lord of the Rings.
And I'm lucky that through my career, I don't think many people have done that.
Like the free...
I did. I was the lead writer on three. On one main edition of 40K, one main edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and Lord of the Rings. So I actually did all three. It's like my name is on 3 of those rulebooks, which is great. It was
imagine not a lot of people can say that. Probably, maybe... No one else.
Rick.
I don't know.
Rick and I.
I'd say,
I think so. Yeah.
The master and his apprentice.
The apprentice. Always there is a master.
About Lord of the Rings, actually, I wanted to know, like, because I heard, because as you mentioned, Rick is delightful to hear in interviews. So every time I see that pop on YouTube, these past few years, like every time I see Rick in an interview, I want to hear about that, about his career. And he mentioned like that Lord of the Rings was so successful that it almost broke GW. Is that true in any way, shape, or form?
It's true in the sense that it was very successful, huge bubble when the film came out, of course, and it was incredibly, and that did two things. I mean, the easy thing to do when you're very successful is to hire lots of stuff, and basically your overhead
scaling up, right?
Yeah, your overheads grow a lot, and everything is easy because the game sells itself, because the movies are out and people coming to your store and say, I want that game. You don't have to demo it, you don't have to. So the game sells itself, and you have a lot of stuff, and you hire so many people. Then a few years later, when the films are not in the theaters anymore, etc., obviously it doesn't die because those films are incredibly, they're timeless. They're amazing,
for sure.
But suddenly, there's a spike, and there's a like all these things. The diagram tends to be like that. So when suddenly your sales don't match the peak, and you still have high overheads, that creates a problem, and it did. But there was some tough times for sure. But obviously, Games Workshop more than survived, did really well.
Apparently, So I heard, and how do you explain how successful that game is? Because for what I've gathered, I didn't play it for like the longest time, but when I discovered Warhammer, it was the point of entry of many of my friends to the hobby in general. And for what I heard, it has stayed relatively the same over the time of over the editions, and nowadays it's still very much loved and played, and has new extension. Is it the movies? Is it Tolkien? Is it or did you guys just build the greatest game ever? Maybe a bit of everything.
All of them, I say, yes, all of them. I think obviously the IP is incredibly strong. Those movies, like I said before, are because they're not relying on CGI so much. They're relying a lot on physical. I think they grow. They age very well, and I think still today people watch them and love them, and so. The IP, the drive is still there. The game, I like to think, and people have told me that it's a good game, and people enjoy it and play it. And yes, the various editions don't seem to have changed a lot of it. So, and I'm proud of that. I mean, it's nice to.
It's a huge legacy, I guess.
I think so. Yeah. And when people invite me to events, tournaments of Lord of the Rings now, and I'm there and I see these things, and I remember writing that 20 years ago.
That's nice. Yeah,
it's nice. It's very nice.
We mentioned IP, so I wanted to talk about that word because I myself have worked with a lot of IPs. It's always somewhat exciting, stressful. I wanted to know because through your company, River Horse, that from what you told me before this interview that you just sold. So congratulations. I guess that's less stress.
Yes.
But I was wondering because you work on Terminator, Pacific Rim, Hunger Games, even on My Little Pony RPG.
Yes.
Now you're working on Ghost in the Shell. So how's working with IP changed? Did it change your approach, or for you is it all the same? It's just that more maybe limitations, or you have to work with the people owning the IP?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same. But there's a big difference between working for a game whose IP is owned by my company or the company I work for, and a game that works for an IP which is owned by a third party, of course. So it's different in terms of limitations, like you said, what you can and cannot do, and how long it takes to do things. So it's a delicate process, and I found that it really depends on the licensor. There are many, many different licensors, and you think the experience should be similar all the time, and it is similar, but there are also some big differences between them. American licensors, Japanese licensor, European licensor, already that's a big difference in the way they approach things and the way they also the size of the licensor. The Jim Henson Company, which I worked on with a lot, like the Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, it's not the same as working with Hasbro on My Little Pony. They're very different beasts. And there's advantages and disadvantages on both. In one side you have more freedom, but maybe less assets to work with from. The other one you have more assets. Hasbro goes like, here's a catalog of images.
Yeah, go ahead.
But then the control is different. So it's an interesting thing, and definitely a skill that I learned through many, many years of working on like all the IPs you mentioned and more. Yeah. So Lord of the Rings being the first one where I really learned where I first learned, all right, okay. So the actors need to approve the miniatures. Okay. All of that. So
Did you approve your own miniature? Because for those who don't know, Alessio was actually in Lord of the Rings as an extra, right?
I was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a lovely experience. As a Tolkienite, somebody who, I'm not religious, but I think Tolkien is probably the closest I have in my life to a religion. You know, the Bible is the Lord of the Rings, and I can quote from it and stuff. So, so that experience was mystical. It was a mystic experience, and yes, I am very proud of it, and I told this story a million times.
Yeah, so I'm sure people will be familiar. But sorry, I interrupted you for that anecdote that everybody knows about.
Please do. Please do. Interrupt it. But you want me to tell it again at length?
I mean, I imagine it's a cool medal to wear. Yeah, you know, I was in Lord of the Rings. Like, okay, not a lot of people can say that. But when it comes to IP, which one were your favorite? You mentioned before we started that Ghost in the Shell is very high up in your, maybe right after Tolkien or something like that.
I think you are correct. Tolkien would rank first, I think, for sure. But Ghost in the Shell is very high up. I mean, I said I was a big fan, and I think the other night, and Thomas said, "No, you are the biggest
fan,
in the world."
So how did that happen? Actually, like.
Well, I always liked Japanese.
You were chasing for it, like you wanted to work on that on Ghost in the Shell.
No, I always loved that. I mean, Japanese culture in general. I did kendo for many years, and so I'm definitely
that
married.
tracks.
Definitely married into that culture. But Ghost in the Shell was, I went and approached Kodansha and managed to negotiate a deal to use the original manga. So this RPG is based on the original manga, which is for me is the way I prefer of Lord. I mean, some of the films and anime series that have been done later are great. But for me, the first love is definitely the first way I encountered Shiro and his work was indeed the manga. So working on that is amazing.
Yeah, I imagine. And were you like a big manga reader, or are you still maybe a big manga reader?
Yeah. Maybe more when I was younger, for sure. Having more time, you always have more time for other things because you don't have to run a business, for example.
For instance.
But I watched a lot of anime. I'm sure, like in France, in Italy, when I was a young man, a young lad, we grew up with all the anime in the world. We had all Japanese anime. So that was a big thing for me.
Okay. Any favorites beside Ghost in the Shell? Sorry. Yeah.
Anime, manga anime.
Yeah, or both.
Obviously, I think the clear winner on that is Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind by Hayao Miyazaki. I think that story, that manga, it's incredibly deep. I mean, the war portrayal there, and the way she portrays this heroine and the way she behaves. It brings me to tears every time I read it. So that, I think, stands high above. But there's a lot of other anime-manga that I enjoyed a lot, and through his name, Fist of the North Star, Hokuto no Ken,
great one,
Lupin. I mean, Grandizer, Goldrake, which there's like Mazinger, all of those. But I suppose the best one from the point of view of that kind of history feeling, etc., is Gundam. So the Gundam, the first series, particularly of Gundam, blew my mind when I was a kid, because you used to see the Mazinger style comics, and then you see that and you go, wait, this is
what just happened.
This is realistic. They have ammunition. They run out of ammunition. What? Good. There's bad guys and good guys, and they are not just on both sides of the war.
A nice change of perspective. Yes. I mean, I work on Grandizer, so I know everything about it. And obviously, I'm very jealous of anything Gundam related. But Grandizer is nice. A bit of naivety, in this world goes a long way.
Very colorful.
Exactly. And I wanted to know, because and we didn't mention all of them, but if you had any favorite mechanic, or on the other side of things, a mechanic that didn't work that great that you'd like to revisit, or you actually did revisit in another game. Does that ever happen for a game designer as experienced as you?
Interesting question. Well, I mean, you could say that there's a big phase in my life from 1996, something like that, to 2010. I worked at Games Workshop. So obviously, you have to follow the constraints you have there when you design games, etc. From 2010, onwards, I founded River Horse, and I started to work both for myself, but also as a service provider for other companies in the industry. And I guess there is where I started to kind of all those 15 years at Games Workshop and all the things I couldn't do. I wanted to do, but I couldn't.
Put everything in it.
Yes, I think I created a kind of a rank and file fantasy system, if you want, my Warhammer, and a skirmish. Skirmish, but kind of something on the scale of 40k with bolt action. So my rank and file version is called Kings of War.
Yeah,
I've done it with Mantic, and that's kind of like, how would I do that? Rank and file fantasy battles. I was like, okay, that's the way I'll do it. So Kings of War is my
your
version
take
of that,
on,
and bolt action is my take on blokes. People with guns running around and tanks, kind of, which could be 40k, but it could be World War II, and so it is the same kind of the scale is the same. So those are I think this is where I applied the mechanics that I wanted to do for many years, and I couldn't because obviously I was like, like alternate activation and this random thing is like, no, is I go, you go. I was like,
okay,
all right, okay.
Okay, noted.
And it's not right or wrong. It's just that obviously
for different games,
nice,
different approaches.
Absolutely. And it was nice to do that, to be able to do that.
Yeah, and so let's talk about bolt action because you're leading the way with that, which is great, by the way. But historical, especially nowadays, can look a bit old-fashioned, I'd say. Personally, I grew up with my dad painting little tanks, planes, and everything, so I love everything about history, like military history, and so I was always interested in bolt action. But from my experience, like discovering the game, which was funny because everybody was like, are you actually going to that old-fashioned looking game
with old people?
And actually playing it, I thought it was way more modern than what I could actually envision like a few years before. So how do you sort of handle that legacy of historical games, but also, as you mentioned, like bringing maybe alternate activation or something that it is not as, I don't know if alternate activation is that fresh.
Random activation in the case of bolt action,
in the case of bolt action. So how did you balance all of that? So you mentioned like you had a lot of, I don't know if frustration is the right word, but I guess a lot of things that you couldn't do at Games Workshop that you could experiment on with Warlord on bolt action. But was there anything else? Like maybe you wanted to actually put some fresh air in that historical side of wargaming?
No, I didn't start with the idea of, all right, I'm going to change the historical wargaming because, to be honest, I didn't experience a lot. I mean, I did play some of the games, like Warlord games. But I mean, Warlord games was starting at the same time when I started River Horse, so it was a really beginning. And I think it's a kind of a type of the journey that a lot of people go on to is when you're younger, you play fantasy and science fiction. And as you grow older, suddenly you start to get a bit more interested in history. I guess because life is teaching you about real life and sacrifice and responsibility and imagining what these people went through. I mean, I'm still going through in some other countries, unfortunately. But is this... I mean, what's more heroic? Is it more heroic to make you stand in front of aliens, or actually to get into a tank when you know that the enemy tanks are so much better? You stand very little chance of getting out alive, and you still get into the tank, and you still go and do your duty and stuff. So it feels, if anything, it feels more. There's more pathos there. There's more. So it feels more relevant, and so I guess also as you get old, you start to get interested into details like armor and uniforms and things. Like your dad, you were saying, the kind of painting the right thing. So I slowly moved from a more fantasy science fiction type of kind of what I enjoyed playing, really. I did work on many other fantasy and science fiction systems after that, but as my hobby, what I play often now for fun is bolt action because I like historical games now probably more than I like fantasy and science fiction.
Makes
games.
sense, yeah.
So at least in terms of wargaming, that is, and so basically, the historical side has advantages and disadvantages. Like you were saying, you have constraints because you cannot just make up stuff,
of course,
and people are going to check it.
And
saying bolt action is modern. Yeah, it is not. It certainly is a step away from the alternating, I go, you go kind of structure. The activation system in bolt action has been praised a lot. I'm really glad to hear that people seem to really like it. And I enjoy it. I still enjoy it. I think it creates that tension and fun. But I think the best thing to describe bolt action as a philosophy, it's a game. It's fun. It's not a simulation.
Yes.
It is not. It's not hyper accurate in terms of this submachine gun should be different from this other submachine gun. Well, a Thompson submachine gun is the same as an MP40. What?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's a submachine gun.
It's always funny because when I said I am interested in bolt action, everybody is thinking like, oh, but how a MG42 would be different from like an American Browning and everything. Is like, that's 40K. That's not bolt action. Like to an extent, there are different rules, but usually it's much easier that people think it is from the first glance.
You can go as deep as you want, of course. You can slice weapons in a million different ways. What I've done is I went for bands. There's 4 bands of anti-tank guns. Every gun would be in one of these 4. It's like a light, medium, heavy, or super heavy. There you go, 4 bands. So simplified for ease of play, for fun, for speed. So that's I think throughout my career I always try to simplify things. So that's another thing that actually was interesting coming out of Games Workshop, is that I was allowed to simplify things more than I was, because I was preached a bit, like minimalism, and I wasn't always allowed to do it. It was always like, no, we need more grit, and I was like, grit versus simplicity, and so I always fought against the conception that more complicated rule sets are better, and I was like, no, I think simplicity is better, and simplicity is difficult. That what I found, through many years of writing stuff is that there's a quote from Mark Twain, the writer, that says, well, I didn't have time to write you a brief letter, so I wrote you a long letter.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to write you a brief letter, but I didn't have time, so I wrote you a long letter. And I think that clarifies it. Simplicity is like difficult.
Yes.
Complexity is easy.
And would you say like that this sort of quest of simplicity? How long did it take for you to realize that? I mean, you mentioned like maybe Games Workshop had certain limitation, or maybe they wanted to keep things like very Warhammer related. So we need a lot of maybe layers to add some grit, as you mentioned. But I imagine going through one game to another, you sort of refine your own style towards simplicity, or was it one particular game that actually, when it clicked?
I think there is no. That's a quest, like you said. You define it a quest, and the quest never ends. You never find a grail. You always want to find a grail. You're striving to find a grail, but you don't normally find a grail. So no, of course not. I always try and always feel like every edition of the game, you think, I'm improving this. Oh yeah, this is much better now. Oh, I broke this other bit here. So there's always an evolving process, and also it's a matter of taste. What works for somebody doesn't work for other people. As a designer, your instinct is always to tweak things and change things and improve things. If you don't have the desire to, I could make it better next time. One more. I could change this thing. Then you'd probably not a designer. You don't have that instinct, I guess. And sometimes the instinct can be too much. So you have to learn when to listen or when not to listen, or how much to listen to it. But no, I don't think the quest is. I don't think I found a grail of simplicity. No. But still out there.
Are you still impressed or inspired by maybe another game that you didn't design, but because I used to interview a lot of artists, and at some point, and most of them are amazing, but it always sort of breaks my heart when they say, I don't read comics anymore. I don't have the time. And I'm like, but you actually drawing them, so it could provide so much inspiration, or you could actually steal, like that old saying that the best artists, they actually steal from others and everything. So I'm glad to hear that you're still playing, and you still maybe steal or actually get inspired, as we should say. Is there anything like recently that...
Yes. And first of all, it's very true that even your bolt action as an original activation system, because drawing stuff from bags and sheets and stuff is not nothing new, but you implement it in a certain way, and you're always getting inspired by other stuff,
Yeah,
of course.
for sure.
Yeah, nothing is ever created ex nothing. But, the one that irritates me, yes, I have a clear answer because every time I play it, I go, oh, God, I'm so envious. This game is so great and simple and so amazing. For me, is a Ticket to Ride. Every time I play Ticket to Ride, the original version, the one set in the US, because the simplest. You can teach the game in 3 minutes, yeah, and you get it. You can do one of these 3 things, but this one you never do. You do this or this when you're done, and play, and then suddenly people start to go, oh yeah, and you immediately are in this tension and thinking, and it's fun, it's interactive, and I always go back to, oh God, this does so much with so little, and it's colorful, it's beautiful, and it's simple, and it's great. So it always irritates me. I always say every time I go, I wish I designed this.
Does that happen a lot, like in your personal experience, like going through, I don't know, a shop or tabletops and maybe meeting your friends and you discover another game? Is that like once a month, or is it very rare for you? Because I imagine like you play your own games, so I guess you're unbeatable to them. but yeah, I imagine it takes a lot to impress you, or maybe that's a false,
I don't
sort of statement.
You're probably right in the sense that I'm famous with my friends, my groups of friends, or different groups of people I play board games with. Because what happens, I'm sure you because there's so many games out there these days, is that people go, right, what are we playing tonight? Everybody brings some game. Oh, this, and you try something new, and you go, okay, I played, I do terribly because I'm still learning, and then you go, I understand. I want to play this again because now I understand it. Next time we play, it's like, all right, let's play a new thing. A new thing, all right, okay, learn it, right, okay, cool, I get it, I did terribly, but now I understand, I want to play it again to apply it. Next time we play, oh no, we're playing something completely different, so, and repeat. And I got quite fed up with it, and so I just went, no, we're going to play the same game again and again and again and again and again. So obviously, you can't enforce that, of course, we all like, and we all see, oh, this new game is so exciting. So obviously, it's not a strict rule, but basically what I'm saying is I like to play games a bit more than once.
Yes. Usually better way to play games is more than once, yes. Of course.
But I don't know if you experience it, but there is a lot of this playing game once because there's always a new game.
Yeah, no, especially if you have like the same sort of group, like there is always this new shiny things that will steal away the attention, and and you don't ever get good at the game or experience new stuff, or and even if you stay on the same game, like I don't know, like many of my friends play 40K mainly, and it always changes, so everybody's like sort of, oh, I need to play another one, and sometimes I'm like, let's just stick with the version that we all have in common for now, and we'll see how it goes.
I guess with war games it's easier to stick on the same system because it's such a big investment to collect and paint an army that you wouldn't want to go, I'll use it once. That's it.
I mean, you'd be surprised. Some of my friends, they buy entire armies and then they go to another system. That happens, but
thanks God, because otherwise we'll be out of business.
That's what I mentioned. And what's actually on your on your, I lost the word in English, but what are you painting basically nowadays?
Painting?
Yeah. Are you actually painting miniatures nowadays? Like, do you have an army planned or like a project? Or do you make someone else paint your armies? Okay.
Yes. That's a very common concept that the people misconception that I actually paint.
No, you don't paint.
No.
Like you ever painted?
I painted 4 Skaven miniatures at the very start of my career in 1995 or something like that. Not career, but when I started to play Warhammer, my first army Skaven, I painted a few miniatures, didn't like it. Then I tried something a bit bigger, painted a Doomwheel miniature, so there's a lot of components, stuff, etc. And that's the last thing I painted. This is 1995.
I didn't know.
Yes,
I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this.
I always, it's funny because people often ask me when I'm at an event, it's like, would you like to be on the painting competition as a judge? And I was like, no. No.
I mean, we need to find a game design convention and everybody would bring systems that you can judge, maybe.
Yes, judging that would be a lot easier. But I sometimes am forced to, because they say, oh, but you've seen so many miniatures. Like, I've seen them, I love them, I like them. I've been in the industry for a lot, so yes, I can give an opinion. But I always feel like it's not right to, as somebody who doesn't paint, judge people that actually paint so much better than I can. So
Makes sense.
It feels uncomfortable. No, I don't paint. I don't like it. I like gaming a lot. I like painted armies a lot.
Yeah.
Playing with painted armies, fantastic. I'm lucky enough that I often play at the Perry twins in their house and with their collection,
nice.
which is like, if you go on the Perry Miniatures website and look at the battle reports of our battles, it's just astonishing. Huge Napoleonic armies, all painted. So great, I love that. I don't like painting, so obviously, yes, like you said, I normally sometimes buy, collect, assemble even the army, but then when it comes to painting, I'll just bribe, corrupt
some friends,
somebody that's like, pay, whatever. I try to definitely, I always got somebody else to paint my armies, and I have quite a few painted armies, but not by me.
Anything like as a work in progress at your friend's house at the moment? Like, are you expecting the delivery of an army at any moment when you come back?
No, I'm actually considering a new bolt action army.
Nice.
I'm kind of tinkering with which one it's going to be, but I haven't decided yet. But first, we'll finish to write all the expansions, all the new books, which we're almost there, and then I'll make my mind and decide on a new one.
Which led me to my sort of last question. I wanted to know what on the hobby side what happens, but maybe on the working side to finish maybe on a more professional note. Sorry, guys, but what's happening in your life at the moment? Like, you sold your company. There is a great project with Ghost in the Shell, which I understand is like a big dream of yours, finally achieved. Maybe that dream was in Japanese, not in English, not in Italian. But anything else we should know about?
Well, no, I think in terms of what I can talk to you about, because I'm working on a few games with different companies, but like you said, having sold the company, now I have the freedom of kind of working as a consultant for whoever wants to hire me.
Hire Alessio. Can I hire this guy? He's free. He needs to pay his armies, so
It's really busy at the moment, so a bit of a waiting list. But yes, so basically, mostly my two biggest customers are Warlord Games and Mantic Games. Warlord Games, I'm working on bolt action, and some of the other thing that we cannot talk about yet, but certainly on bolt action, we're finishing all the Armies of series, and France is going to be very soon out.
Nice.
Finished. We're laying it out. So it's quite advanced.
Will I be able to run like a second armored division?
We have actually this time around, because France is going to be its own book, as opposed to together with other armies like we did in the past. There's definitely more depth, and we're gonna in there. You have the main army, which is obviously the Army of the Republic, but then you have also two appendixes, like we did with the Italian army. You have the in this case the Vichy and the Free French. So you have all of those forces. So it's 3 armies in one, effect in one book. So so bolt action is one thing that I'm continuing to work on.
Cool.
But the other thing, like you said, is the Ghost in the Shell tabletop roleplay game. It's a roleplay game, and of course, when we launch it, and it's very soon, it's going to be a success, and we definitely hope with all my heart that it's going to be a success. Then from a tabletop roleplay game which has miniatures, there's a miniature range with it, then I think the next step, why not a board game with miniatures, a skirmish war game with miniatures? Well, I certainly push in that direction, but it all depends how it goes, of course.
Yes,
but I'm super excited about that.
Yes, we are too. So if there are any Ghost in the Shell fans listening to us, you know what to do, guys. And of course, for our French bolt action players, I think they will be delighted to hear that they will be represented through their own book. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much, Alessio, for your time and for being here at Ludiverse. It was really nice meeting you, talking to you. I'm sorry that I put you on the spot regarding painting and everything else. But but just kidding. But I had a great time. I hope you had too. Yes. And see you maybe next year or in other edition of Ludiverse.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And I hope next year I'll be here with a nice book of Ghost in the Shell to show you through, and we can play some games. Maybe
let's go.
I hear you guys play RPGs.
We do here. And thank you to La Bonne Auberge, who are actually letting us using their studio. We should organize that for next year. That's a good idea. Thank you so much, guys. À bientôt. Merci.
À bientôt.